There's just something that feels good about using two daggers on an assassin-like character. It gives me nostalgia for Guild Wars 1 factions. Unfortunately, using two daggers on a thief doesn't work out so well in Guild Wars 2 PvP or World vs. World because the lack of mobility and defense on that weapon set. However, because of the wardrobe system, you can put the Takyun skins, which you can get from the reward track you unlock for doing episode 16 of the End of Dragon story, What Lies Beneath. The sword and dagger skins from the set are almost identical, so while it looks like you're using two daggers, you could be playing a sword dagger build, which is in my opinion way more fun, way more viable, and closer to that Guild Wars 1 assassin playstyle anyways. So in this video, I'll be providing the build and guide to play the Sword Dagger Daredevil. If you want a more duelist oriented build, play the core Sword Dagger build, but with the Daredevil you have more momentum and chasing potential to allow you to secure kills like a true assassin. To start off, take Marauder stats and pack runes for the most balanced setup, but if you want to have more front-ended burst, put in more Berserker and Scholar runes. Put air and fire sigils on your sword and dagger, then have a short bow with some defensive stats on it with energy and cleansing, since this is the weapon you will use defensively. For traits, go with Deadly Arts and Trickery. You can swap Bountiful Theft for Trickster if you're going against a lot of conditions, but losing the Boon Rip will lower your kill potential greatly and remove the main utility of Steel, which is to get through stability, Aegis, or protection, allowing you to expose the defenses of your target when you're ready to burst. In Deadly Arts, you want to go for all the Steel traits except for Panic Strike, which not only will help you secure kills by immobilizing low targets, but also because immobilizing an enemy will apply a small poison, and when you apply poison you also apply weakness due to Lotus Poison. Weakness is already a strong condition, but also because of the Daredevil trait Weakening Strikes, you deal more damage to and take even less damage from those with weakness on them. Improvisation gives you double the stolen abilities, and depending on which classes you are stealing to, you can get very powerful skills like the Mesmer and Revenant ability. Also, when you successfully steal, one of your 3 utility skills will be recharged at random. If the random skill is already off cooldown, then nothing happens. This means that the more pressured you are and the less cooldowns you have, the more chance you have of recovering. Now the dash dodge will give plenty of mobility to weave in and out of the fight, but it also cleanses movement inhibiting conditions, and because of escapist fortitude, whenever you evade an attack, you cleanse a condition. Note, evade not dodge, meaning you need to dodge a specific attack, not just spam dodges into nothing. This means you can cleanse multiple conditions every time you dodge, but it is very important you time your dodges rather than spam them just for movement, because if you dodge nothing, you get no cleanse. The most essential skill is your Sword 2. Learning how to use this properly will give you the sustain you need to survive while still playing a glassy thief build. Always remember where you ported from, because that will be the direction you return towards on the second cast. Try to move away from the return location so that it creates more distance and therefore puts you in a safer positioning relative to the enemies chasing you. If you use Sword 2 and then return to the spot which is right next to you, then you might as well not even use the return. Also, place your return spot behind terrain if possible so that you can instantly weave in and out of line of sight. You always want to open with this skill because it gives you an escape plan and it immobilizes your target, which gives poison and therefore weakness. From there, you want to use Cloak and Dagger, which is your hardest hitting skill, and while it can be hard to land, it's perfect to time it right after the immobilize. This puts you in stealth, and now you can use your sneak attack Tactical Strike right afterwards. This will daze when you hit it from the back and blinds from the front, so generally you want to hit it from the back. For the daze, I mean. This also gives 15 vulnerability to the target. At this point you can use Sword 3, but generally it's not a good idea to waste your initiative, so I prefer to just auto attack while they're dazed. You can return back with your Sword 2 and then wait for another engage after baiting some cooldowns. Remember that air and fire sigils add extra burst to anything you do that crits, on a low cooldown, so you get value out of poking with Sword 2 or even the projectile of Dagger 4 without fully investing in an engagement. Sword 3 is unblockable, and if it lands, gives you access to Larcenous Strike. But I don't like to spam Sword 3 even if it evades, because you run out of initiative fast, and it doesn't keep you alive that long compared to spamming Sword 2 with good positioning. However, if I want to stay on the target but see a specific animation I want to dodge while sticking to the target, or if they're blocking, I'll use Sword 3. If it lands, then I will go for the second part, Larcenous Strike, which is also unblockable and steals boons. This can be predictable, so you want to combine your Larcenous Strike with a port to the target so you can land it while hiding the animation. You can also combine Cloak and Dagger with any of your ports, such as Infiltrator Signet, Sword 2, and Steel. Steel is a very important skill to land because all of your traits are invested into it, so that is the big momentum play when you steal. However, you don't want to steal into someone's evade frame or on someone who is full on cooldowns, because when you steal to someone, they become dazed, and if they can't use any skills, most players will dodge, and then you miss your burst. That means you want to combine a skill with steal so they occur at roughly the same time. The basic opener would be to use Sword 2 to engage and set up your escape while putting weakness on your target and immobilize. Then Cloak and Dagger and Tactical Strike. Auto attack until you need to evade, then use Sword 3. If that lands, then you can use another dodge to get some distance, and then use Larcenous Strike and Steel at the same time for your burst. But things don't always go perfectly, and you may need to use your Steel earlier or save it to interrupt them. This is why I like to take Scorpion Wire. You can replace it with Roll for Initiative or Signet of Agility if you want more sustain, but Scorpion Wire makes securing kills so easy. If you pull someone, they are just presented to you in Cloak and Dagger range, and you can follow up with another burst. This saves you some initiative and time trying to port back out and then in again with Sword 2. So it's much more aggressive and can pull enemies out of their safe spots. And a pull is technically just a stun if you use it in melee range. Now let's talk about how it's used in a real roaming scenario, which is ganking and escaping, not necessarily 1v1s. So here we're being chased outnumbered, but this build is really good at singling out targets. So if someone overextends, we're going to go straight for them and try to get them downed. They use some of their cooldowns, and after that I go in for the burst. We get them down with a coordinated effort, and now we just need to secure the down. So I'm safely cleaving with the short bow, but I'm getting heavily pressured because we are outnumbered, and I was quite far ahead of the rest of my party for a long time and got aggro. Now I'm trying to peel for my allies by dazing the Harbinger here, but we have to leave, and I Dagger Storm to escape, but they just dodged, so I know that I can go for my Scorpion Wire, get a nice daze from the Tactical Strike, and we get a second kill there. So you can see how we're focusing targets that are out of position and assassinating them and then getting out while we have the time to do so. Here's another situation. We're trying to get a kill on this Necro who's out of position, but they're quite tanky and reinforcements are coming, so we're trying to get the kill as fast as possible, but we're not able to do that. I steal to the Mesmer and I target a Griffin off to the side to use my Sword 2 to get out of combat. It's always important to see the terrains and neutral mobs in the area to be able to port to with your ports, because that can give you some easy disengage potential. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to port back and forth enough to create space so that I can help my team to survive here. We go for the res after we bait them towards their keep, and now that we've lost quite a few of them, we can re-engage, and I see that their Virtuoso is low. I land my Cloak and Dagger and my Sword 3 into any of their blocks, and now we just need to cleave them out. So I use the Dagger Storm, and I'm swapping to Short Bow while I'm low on cooldowns, so I can just cleave from the safe distance of my Short Bow. And now we're going to look for another target, and I see the Deadeye is a pretty high priority target, but the Mirage is low and already being focused by someone else. So I jump on them, we get the kills, and now there's only one target left for us to get down is their Dragon Hunter. So we're going to try to go for the Scorpion Wire. We pull them, and now they have to use their cooldowns just to get back to where they were. So they're really out of positioning now, and we just need to use our Sword 3 for the unblockable and secure that kill. Here's a 1v1 against a Renegade. I see they're in Shiro stance, so I know they're going to use their port very early on. So I'm going to use Steal as soon as they port to prevent their momentum, and that'll give me the stolen ability early on anyways, which is very powerful to use in the matchup. I use my Sword 3 to evade and my heal skill just so I don't get pulled, and I'm using my Sword 2 to create the disengage, and when I'm not ready to go in, I'll port back, and then I'm just going to keep poking using my Cloak and Dagger while they're immobilized. I can Tactical Strike, use my Sword 2 to get back out. I see they're in Shiro, so I'm just going to preemptively steal on them and use my ranged abilities here. I want to dodge that 7-shot, but it didn't work out so well. And now I'm going to back off and just use my short bow because my steal is still on cooldown and I don't really have much momentum right now. So I'm just keeping their cooldowns going whilst waiting for my cooldowns, essentially. You want to be constantly swapping through your weapons based on the momentum of the situation and waiting for your cooldowns. But now that I've got my steal, I'm going to use that for the burst, but they are counter pressuring pretty hard, so I still have to dodge, and I land a really nice Cloak and Dagger there to finish them off. So as you can see, playing the Sword Dagger Daredevil relies heavily on your knowledge of the matchups and which targets are squishy, and also precise movements. If you want to know more about the matchups and how to move your character efficiently, check out the links in the description below. And if you would like to see more content like this, then subscribe, like the video, comment down below which you would like to see next, and if you'd like to support me further, please consider becoming a patron. I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, I will see you all next time.